I'm here to tell you, you don't know what your kid's going to be at 8 or 9 years old. I've seen kids that look like DBs, built like DBs at 9 years old. Then you see them 5 years later in their adolescence, and they're 6'5". Now these kids are defensive ends. You are watching and listening to the Indy Drills Podcast, where we talk about defensive secondary, defensive back technique, coverages, linebackers, defense, all that kind of stuff, because not too many people want to talk about those things. It's all about offense. In an offensive world, I say this every week, but it hasn't changed, has it? It's all about those fantasy points, catching passes, and what we're here to do is to get all of that stuff wrapped up and put in a bow and not happening anymore. So welcome to the Indy Drills Podcast. If this is your first time here, welcome to the show. And feel free to jump in the comment section. If you are a first-time listener, if you're a first-time visitor to the Indy Drills Podcast, go ahead and drop a comment down below. Let me know that this is your first time here. Appreciate you jumping on and being a part of this train. Not a whole lot in terms of news. Well, let me not say that. A couple of very big news items happened this week in the NFL, one before the games and one after the games. Can you believe that? But that's how things go. A big trade involving cornerbacks, one with the Cleveland Browns, one with the Jacksonville Jaguars. A real head scratcher for me as the Jacksonville Jaguars send Tyson Campbell, who they signed to a big contract just last year, to the Cleveland Browns and bring over Greg Newsome. File this under I don't understand, but this is the NFL, so you're not supposed to always understand. Things just happen. Things just get done. I mean, the Cleveland Browns sent the quarterback that started their season to their rival, the Cincinnati Bengals, this week. These are just things that you just never understand. But so far as the Tyson and Greg Newsome thing is concerned, I don't get it. They're both speedy, athletic cornerbacks. They fit in the same genre, same category. Tyson's a bigger guy, all right, at 6'2", 200 plus pounds. And I'm not sure why the swap was made, all right? No, Tyson's a great person. Much as I know about Greg Newsome, good guy, not problems in the locker room. So I don't understand the switching of these two guys, because the only thing that's going to happen there is both guys must now adapt to their new surroundings. All right. So, that might take a few weeks, might never happen. Who knows? I just don't understand the reasons for it. All right. So while you have Greg Newsome in Jacksonville trying to adjust to his new surroundings, new coach, new system, all that, you don't necessarily have a number one corner. I know everyone loves Travis Hunter. He's brand new. He's a rookie, and he's also playing on offense. So that's not your number one corner. He's still learning on the job. So I'm not sure why that move was made. We'll have to just watch it. For Greg Newsome, though, it's a chance to be on a team that looks like they're winning. However, promptly after making this move, the Jaguars went out and inexplicably lost a home game on a 1 p.m. start to a team on the super West Coast. And you can't get more West Coast than the Seattle Seahawks, who come down here and basically play a 10 a.m. game and beat the Jaguars in their own house. Let's hope the winning continues for Jacksonville. But again, not a trade I understand. For Tyson Campbell, it's a chance to head over to the Cleveland Browns. And while you are adjusting to your new surroundings, you are not there to be the CB1 at the moment. That title belongs to Denzel Ward. It's a chance to play in a really good secondary. Yes, the Browns don't win a whole lot of games. It's just not been the history for the Browns. But you do get a chance to play on a good defense and be alongside a guy like Denzel Ward, where you can form a pretty good duo. You and Ward, you guys can form a pretty good duo and bring a pretty good amount of tension to yourselves, to the secondary, to the defense, and hopefully hold people down, man, because I don't, know what they're going to do on offense. Like I said, Joe Flacco started the year. He is now a Cincinnati Bengal by the Cleveland Browns' own doing. Now you've got a quarterback lefty Dylan Gabriel that I don't know if people believe a whole lot in, but he's your guy, and everyone is still wondering why Shedeur Sanders is not at least listed as the backup or even getting reps. So that's what you've got going on there in Cleveland. But that was an interesting move there that we'll probably never understand, but we'll just have to see how that one plays out. The other big defensive back news is Brian Branch after the game with the Kansas City Chiefs, a hotly contested game. Any game involving the Detroit Lions against a good football team right now is going to be hotly contested because you know how the Lions come. It's physical with them, all right? If you beat them, you're going to have to beat them, and that's exactly what the Chiefs did. The Chiefs signed up and played the physical football out of pure necessity because the Chiefs were struggling right now and needed that win. It was a situation where the Chiefs needed the win more than the Lions needed it, and that's how it played out. I don't know what happened throughout the game. I guess there was some chirping going on, but this is normal, all right? This is normal theater during a football game, and whatever was said and whatever happened led to Brian Branch, and I think most of you have seen the video, walking up to Juju Smith-Schuster, if you don't know who that is, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, and punching him in the helmet, which sent Juju Smith-Schuster to the ground, and of course, promptly jumping back up, and then a melee ensues, and throughout the melee, somehow Juju Smith-Schuster ended up without his helmet on and with a bloody nose after, so safe to say he got the shorter end of the stick in that whole brawl. For his work in that postseason melee, Brian Branch has been suspended one game for the Detroit Lions, and that comes in a secondary that is ravaged with injuries. So this comes at an absolute wrong time. In the words of Dan Campbell, his head coach after the game, he is not at all happy with Brian Branch's activities after the game. All right. He's just not in support of that. And Dan Campbell is by all means a tough guy, but that's, not how you show toughness and stuff like that. I'm going to make this message for my defensive backs out there and linebackers as well, because we work with you guys also. It's never that serious. Okay. Things can get pretty intense in a game. Maybe some things get said. Maybe guys are trying to get in other guys' heads, and maybe things even get a little bit physical. I mean, anyone that's going up against DK Metcalf on a particular game day is going to probably get into some kind of melee. Him, George Pickens, those type of wide receivers, they bring that kind of stuff on. That's the kind of way that they play the game. But once the game is over, that's it. Let it go. You're on to the next thing. All right. If you guys used to watch Bill Belichick's press conferences after the game was over, the mentality has to be, we're on to the next opponent. That's it. It's over with. If you guys can't dap it up as competitors at the midfield afterwards, let it ride, let it roll. Now, the fans are going to love this stuff. The fans loved it when Marcus Peters and Jalen Ramsey looked like they wanted to come to blows several years ago when, they had switched teams, basically. And so the fans are going to love that stuff. It's great theater. It's great for the content creators. It's great for the people on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram. But for you as a player, man, that's not a road to go down. Forget about all that stuff. Things happen or said on the field. Let it ride, let it roll. And, Ryan Branch now that has caught a game check, and you're not going to be out there with your teammates off of a loss when they're really going to need you. All right. The Lions are going to need a bounce back, and things are tough in that AFC North this year. The Chicago Bears look like they want to play some football. The Packers are good, and the Minnesota Vikings are solid. So you can't just be giving up games. So guys got to just learn how to control their emotions. And this goes for anyone that's listening to this. You guys in high school, I see quite often their melees after games. Don't be the one that started that. And as a matter of fact, if you're going to be involved in something like that, be the one that's trying to break it up. Leave all the stuff that happened on the field, move on to the next. Sometimes that'll probably hurt a guy more than anything else. Dude's looking for an issue after the game, and you just didn't even think enough of him to even take on that conversation and play that game with him afterwards. Just keep it pushing, keep it moving, and we can avoid stuff like that. All right. Great stuff coming up on the show today. A couple of things to get to, talking about young defensive backs. And when I say young, I mean pre-high schoolers. Got some pretty good advice there for you guys and the parents of pre-high school defensive backs. You might want to listen to that. I've got a great question from the mailbag today about dealing with wide receivers in an upcoming matchup. I think my coaches out there and players would also be very interested in that. And then, I'm more on the mindset. It's the time of year where we're in the games, we're playing the games, and the stuff is real, and we're moving fast towards the postseason. I've got a discussion here. We're going to talk about a certain kind of mindset that you need to have when playing a technique. You're going to want to hear that. So make sure you strap up, saddle on. And if you've been coming here for a while and you haven't had a chance to do it, you forgot, or you've had just a brain lapse, freeze, whatever, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, man. And the bell if you're watching me here on YouTube, so you're notified the next time I put out a great show like this one. And we're cranking them out each and every week. We're cranking out videos here each and every week. I have upped the content cycle here. So if you're looking for DB help, news, technique, all that good stuff, you have found the right place. This is where you want to be. If you're listening to me on a streaming device, go ahead and hit that subscribe button there. And then if you are looking for additional videos and help with your DB technique, schemes, coaches, coaching, all that good stuff, head on over to my YouTube channel. You could put in All Eyes DB Camp YouTube or Gridiron Studs YouTube, and that will take you right there. And you can grab a hold of all that very helpful stuff for you that I have on the channel. All right, moving right into some things here. Without fail, I will get this phone call or reach out, email, text from a young dad, usually, but sometimes from the mom, in season. But it doesn't matter, in season or out season. They've got a 9, they got a 10, 11-year-old, even a 12-year-old sometimes that they want to come and do some DB training, sometimes in season, but most of the time in the off season. And I typically turn these parents away. And why do I do that? Because of this. Experience has told me, all right? I've had a couple of sons go through this whole thing and reach the highest level playing this game. I've coached at the youth level, coached at the high school level, and it's a lot of defensive backs that have been through my hands, whether as a coach, as a trainer, et cetera, et cetera. Dealt a whole lot in the whole recruiting world. And I know that right now is the end game, or at least the beginning of the end game for a lot of these parents that are reaching out to me. They want to put their sons in an advantageous position when they get to high school so that they are recruited and they can at least get a college education at the very least. And then, of course, there's NIL money out there. Let's not be naive and forget about that. That is, also a part of this. There's money being handed out here at the college level, and, people want a piece of that. And why not? Why wouldn't you want that for your son? In your quest to do that, though, there is the very big possibility that you could do too much and hurt their chances, or you can make some wrong moves there. You got to make the right moves. There are a bunch of trainers out there that will train guys that are younger than 13 years old. 13 is the youngest age that I take, and there's a reason for that. There are a bunch of guys that will train younger than that, and I know some of the parents that I give this advice to will go ahead and do that anyway. They will hear what I have to say, and they'll still go do that. No problem. It's your kid. It's their life. It's your life. It's your family's life. You make that choice. I'm just going to give you some advice here. When you start getting to that high school level and it's time for a kid to get recruited, the number one thing that they are going to be looking for is an athlete. You may not agree with that. I don't always agree with that as well.
Parents, dads out there, if you're trying to get your kid to the next level, you're trying to get him to the level of elite skills, you've got to use these resources that I have available to you. One is my book, 101 DB Tips. It's the greatest book out there for DBs. Everything on covering man, playing zone, playing corner, playing safety, how to study film. It's an excellent resource for your young tyke that's trying to become a big-time DB. Also, the All Eyes DB Camp members area is a superpower. Over 200 videos in there on all types of things like how to play coverages, technique, strategy breakdowns, and more. 2 great resources for your young guy if you're trying to get him to the next level. Take advantage of them. Link down in the description below.
But that is the reality of the situation. Those coaches are coming there looking for an athlete. They're looking at height, weight, size, speed, strength. Those are the things that they're looking for first. After that, they'll start looking for technique, football IQ, and all those other things fall into place. So with that being the case, you want to develop your child into the best athlete possible. And the years to do that are the pre-high school years. You're not trying to do that once they get to high school. They have to have been introduced to that already. All right. Can't say it's, impossible. Yeah, there's a chance a kid could pick up another sport and become a really good athlete once they get to high school. But the chances are of that happening are a whole lot less than you stoking that flame and setting that up pre-high school. And how do we do that? When football season is over, as difficult as this may be for you to do, you need to get your son into other sports. Yes, I know some of his teammates and some of the opponents in your league that seem to be doing the greatest at that age are out pulling the sled and training for football in the offseason like they're a pro or college football player. I know they're out there going to trainers, and that turns around and them being the best 10-year-old or 11-year-old out on the football field. Colleges are not recruiting 11-year-olds. You have to have a long-term view in this thing. I get it. On Saturday mornings, when you're out there on that football field, you want your son to be the best. You want him to be the one getting the interceptions, the big hits, the fumble recoveries, the touchdowns. I get all of that. I understand it. All right. Gives you a really, really proud feeling. And you're thinking, well, why can't he be the best 10-year-old, then also be the best 15-year-old, and then the best 18-year-old? Some cases that happens. But I'm here to tell you there are some deliberate steps that need to be taken. So I'm going to harken back to this idea. You need to develop the best athlete possible. Then when they get to those high school years, we can really start working on developing their individual skill. Prior to that, it is best along the lines of playing defensive back if you help them find the knowledge of the game. Okay, so understand how defense works. Maybe learn some of the techniques. They don't necessarily have to spend a whole bunch of hours practicing them. They're better off practicing how to run. They're better off practicing how to defend someone on a basketball court, how to jump and shoot a jump shot or field a fly ball, because that'll give them ball skills, or learn how to wrestle, because that will give them some tremendous mental edge when they do, if they do decide to be football players. There's something for every sport. The soccer guys come with amazing footwork that will help them when they eventually start doubling down on their defensive back drills and things of that nature. I know you're going to feel like your son is falling behind because he's not doing these drills. Tough as this is, don't worry about that. While the 9, 10, 11-year-old is out there doing DB drills in April, your son is on a track running, becoming one of the fastest players out there. Tell me this, when you get to high school and you have a DB that has learned the technique and the footwork, but he's also a 10-400 meters, tell me that's not the guy that the college coach is looking for. As opposed to the guy who's running a mid 4.5, he's a 4.6 40 guy. He's never stepped on a track, but he has a really, really good back pedal, and he knows how to press someone at the line of scrimmage. Yeah, that kid's, he's going to be a solid player, but the coaches are going to come there and project him being in their league, going up against some of the better players in their league, and is he going to be able to hang? And I'm telling you, they are looking for great athletes. Expose your young player to as many sports as possible. Put him in basketball. Put him in baseball if you can. Put him in track. That should be number one. Get him on that track and running, because you know what you do at defensive back? Do you know what you do at cornerback, at safety, at nickelback, at dime back? Do you know what you do? You run. You run all day long. Just watch a guy on the football field that plays defense, and specifically defensive back. All you do out there is run. So it's in your best interest to be able to do that at a very high level. And sure, you could take your kid to a trainer and trainer will tell you, we can improve his speed, blah, blah, blah. Nothing will improve a kid's speed like going and playing, running track, and having to fight each and every week to win his races against his peers. Getting on that track in front of a stands full of people and trying to win first place in the 100 or the 200 or the 400 or even the 800, nothing will motivate a kid more than that. So he'll practice harder. He'll push himself in those competitions, and that will bring the speed out. Sure, a trainer will run a kid through some drills, and he'll have a clock out there, and he'll time them. He'll do all that great stuff. But the competition, both in practice and at the track meets, is what's going to really push your kids' speed to the next level. You want to have them in track, and then you just decide what that other sport is going to be. And if you're fortunate enough and you have good coaches, or the kid is that much of a great athlete, you might be able to even add another sport in there. Don't do all of this to the extent of trashing his ability to do well in school, because as much as people are looking past education at this point in time now, because everything is about NIL and people are questioning the whole validity or necessity of the actual education when you go to college, don't be that one whose kid didn't blossom into the next super 5-star and now he's having a problem getting into school because his academics are not high enough. You want to have that kid above a 3.0 GPA. So if all that you're doing in the off season is at the detriment of that, you're doing your kid a disservice. Okay. You're doing your kid a disservice. Make sure there's some balance there. And the other part is he has to have some kind of a kid life. All right. Don't do it to the point of you totally stripping your kid's chance at being a kid, because you know when he's going to be a kid, when he becomes an adult and he doesn't need to listen to you anymore, then he'll turn into a kid. And that's not when you want that to happen. So there has to be a certain amount of balance. But I'm telling you, you're better off putting your kid in another sport in that off season and not taking him to see a trainer. And if you're trying to take your kid to a DB trainer when he's 8 or 9 years old, I'm here to tell you, you don't know what your kid's going to be at 8 or 9 years old. I've seen kids that look like DBs, built like DBs at 9 years old. Then you see them 5 years later in their adolescence and they're 6'5". Now these kids are defensive ends. They've totally blossomed into another position. So all of the defensive back work, I don't want to say was a complete waste of time, but it wasn't sport specific. It wasn't position specific. And that was the whole reason for you doing that. He would have been better off running around on a basketball court or around the track being the greatest athlete possible. So now when he lines up at defensive end or linebacker or that whole other position that he's grown into, he is bringing a wide range of skills that are going to definitely show up on film when he's being watched by a college coach. So my bottom line here is this. If you want to do something for your kid football wise in the off season, because in your household, football is a 12-month out of the year sport, help him with the football IQ part of it. Help him to understand it. I have great resources if you want to do that. There's book, members area, we've got this YouTube channel, and there's information available online for that. Help him with that. Help him get the brain part of playing football, because I'm here to tell you that's where the longevity is, okay? Understanding the game of football is how guys progress from the next level to the next level. Coaches trust them. They're consistent. They make plays. They're routinely where they need to be, and they don't stress people out, and they just seem to be a playmaker. The next thing is being a tremendous athlete, and the best way for that to happen is not going and asking your trainer for however many dollars an hour to get that done. It is actually putting them in other sports. I would love to just take on all the 9 and 10-year-olds. I'm sure it would be lucrative for me, but I am thinking about the long term for the player. There's nothing worse than a kid getting to that 16, 17 years old and wishing they could get offers and move on to the next level, and they can't. And that ends up being the end game for a lot of these parents that just insisted that their kid needed to be the best 9 or 10-year-old football player out there. I wasn't that, and I made it all the way to the highest level. Didn't stay there as long as I wanted, but I made it there. Was not. You would not have picked me at age 11 or 12 even to say, hey, that guy is going to play in the NFL one day, or that guy is going to play big time college football one day. I was decent, but not that. I didn't need to be the best football player on the team at 12 years old. Some guys will do that. Okay, a very small percentage of guys will be the best player on the team at that age, and it'll just continue through high school, college, and on to the pros. God bless them. But don't try to manufacture. That will just kind of happen on its own. You won't have to manufacture it. You won't have to do it. It'll just happen. God intended for it to be that way. They're blessed with certain skills and characteristics that it just works out that way. But I'm here to tell you, a lot of the guys that I grew up playing with and kids that I ended up coaching afterwards, those best players didn't end up being the best players later on. It's about a long-term approach that you need to have if the end goal is you want to get your kid into school and at least get them a college education for free, because that stuff is not cheap. So take it from me. All right. I know at the end of the day, parents, you're going to do what it is that you want to do. Again, it's your child, but just take it from me. My advice is your kid doesn't need a DB trainer at age 10, at age 11. It's certainly not at age 8 or 9. They don't need that. Okay. They don't need it. Put them in other sports. You might, I don't know if you want this, you might find out the kid's really great at another sport. You'll never find that out if he's at a football trainer from January till June, and then you throw him back into football again. You pretty much said it's football or bust. What if you put that kid on a basketball court and he goes crazy and he's Allen Iverson? What if he picks up a golf club and he's Tiger Woods? What if you put him on the track and the kid's Noah Lyles? Expose them to everything. You have no idea. You don't know what God's intent is. Put them in all of these things and something might really, really blossom. All right, that might happen. But if that is not what happens, they bring a wide range of skills from all of these other sports into this one. And trust me, it helps them when they're in high school. And if nothing else, they're playing team sports in all these other places, and they just learn how to be a really good team player. They know how to have teammates, and they understand the whole team thing. That's getting lost in everything that we're doing today, because it's become really, really about me. Sports has just been a me thing now, because everyone's out for the money and I'm doing what's best for me, and guys end up being terrible teammates, and then they just don't last on teams. All right. Terrible teammates don't really last on football teams. One way or another, they get out of there. All right. Players go complain, or they make it so it's very uncomfortable, and then the guy's out of there. So you can have all the talent in the world, and then, you still can't stick with a football team. You guys have seen guys like that. All right. So I'm off my soapbox on that. Hope you guys take my advice on that one. All right. How do you feel about what I said? Does your sub 13-year-old go to a trainer? I'd love to hear from you. Do you agree with what I said on this? And does your are you younger than 13 and you go to a trainer? I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment down below. And if you disagree, feel free to drop your comment there. I'll be open to listening to what folks have to say about it. So hit that comment section down below if you are watching this on YouTube. Time for the mailbag. I love this part each and every week. Of course, I do need to say this again. If you want to have your question read on the Indy Drills podcast, or at least have a chance to have that done, go ahead and drop your question in the comment section in this YouTube video right now. If you are listening to this on a streaming device, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, whatever, I believe Anchor allows you to be able to ask a question there. You could do it there. But the best thing for you to do, if you are not watching this on YouTube, is to send your question to cwilson@alliesdbcamp.com. Again, that's cwilson@alliesdbcamp.com. And there's a chance, if I love the question or if it really fits what's going on, I will read it on the next Indy Drills podcast. Outside of that, if I don't do that, I will give you an answer to your question. All right, this week's question comes from Tim in Illinois. I like this. All right. It's a very in-season question. He says, we're facing a pair of great wide receivers this week. One is a speed guy and the other is a route runner with a ton of catches. I have only one D1 corner. I bet he played other sports when he was a kid. Let me stop. All right. Which one of these should he shadow? All right. Well, should he shadow? Probably. Now, in that question, I don't have all of the information that I need to give the best advice possible. I'd have to ask Tim some more questions and really dig into what they do there, what they have, how's the rest of the secondary look. So I'm just going to be giving this response just in general to what he has said here. When you're in a situation like this, and many of you listening to this podcast right now are going to find yourself in this situation either at some point in the season, in the postseason, or sometime in your career. But if this is the general situation that you have set up, there are two really great wide receivers, and you've got one corner that you feel can hang or handle one or both of those receivers, what do you do? How do you handle it? And especially in a situation like this, where you've got a route runner and a speed guy. Best thing for you to do here is take your best corner, put him on that route runner. Okay, that's the guy, it sounds like, that's getting the most targets. So you want to limit those targets to that guy. The other guy is a speed guy, and you're going to want to put a cap over the top of that guy. What do I mean by that is you're going to want to get some kind of double coverage on that guy, whether you decide to bracket him inside and outside on most of your coverages or do an underneath and over the top type of deal. Probably better doing the underneath and over the top type of deal if that fits what you guys do defensively. So you get your other corner, let him play loose and free, knowing that he's got a cap over the top. Maybe sometimes he presses that speed guy, make it difficult for him to get off the line of scrimmage if he has those capabilities. If he does beat him off of the line of scrimmage, there's a safety over the top. So that allows that other corner who's, by your description, not as good as the other guy, allows him to play aggressive without having a full worry about getting beat deep because there's going to be a safety over the top helping him. There is a chance that your top guy, if he was put on that speedy wide receiver, might suffer a little bit of technique loss because he's worried about the speed. I'm assuming that your number one guy can't run like how this wide receiver can. So you might have a situation where he's on this top guy and you decided to double the other route catcher, the route running guy who's not the speed guy, and you get hit on a big play, one or two, with your best guy on him simply because he just outran him. All right. Even though he's a really good DB, he's got good coverage skills, technique, et cetera, he gets hit on a couple of big ones because there was one mistake made and the guy got behind him and he couldn't reel him back in. And there was a big play or a big, pass interference penalty in a big situation. That could happen if you put your best guy on him. If you take your best guy, though, and put him on that route runner, and I'm assuming your best DB is a guy who has pretty good technique, he could probably really limit that guy's ability to just pile up catches and yards. Yeah, I'm thinking that route runner's probably going to get his. If he's a 10 catch per game guy, maybe your guy can hold him to 4 or 5 catches. And if he's not a big home run threat, maybe those 4 or 5 catches are 50 yards. You keep him out of the end zone. Your top corner can do a really good job one-on-one with that. And there isn't that big fear factor of the speed. I've just got to cover this guy and his moves. Meanwhile, if you get a guy over the top of the speed guy, you're doing your job there to keep that guy from making a big play. I'm assuming the speed guy's not that much of a route runner. So your DB that is working the underneath part, if you're doing it underneath and over the top, is taking away those short routes that he's not going to be that good at. And then the routes that he's really good at, the posts, the go balls, and maybe the corner routes are being capped over the top by a safety. So you're doing your best matchup there with that guy. And then your route runner is kind of being held in check by your DB. That's a D1 guy that has pretty good technique, who can probably be kind of aggressive against that receiver if he doesn't fear his speed at all. That's probably your best thing to do if you're talking about shadowing him. There is the chance that the team might take that super good route runner and start throwing him in the slot. If your cornerback, your D1 guy can go in the slot and he has those capabilities, then, you go and do that. Outside of that, if you don't really feel like that's going to be a good matchup for him, if he starts going in the slot, you tip your hat to that offense and then you start running zones when that guy is in the slot. You start trying to find some pretty good zones that you can run that you feel confident with. Maybe you've got some zone pressures that you can do and give the quarterback a different look. Maybe get him to just trust that he can throw the ball out there to that route runner, and you have someone buzzing out of a blitz look into a zone and get a couple of turnovers that way. That might be a good thing for you to do. All of these are just some suggestions. Again, I don't know you guys' defense, so if that's the way that you guys operate, that's just some things possibly that you could do there. Of course, if you end up getting a pretty good lead, nothing wrong with running some cover 2 and making them bleed the clock and earn their way down the field. These are just all thoughts for you there. But so far as who should your top guy shadow out of those two, that's my recommendation to you. Have your top guy shadow the route runner and your other corner work a double team high and low with another safety that you trust back there. Probably a guy that has really good ball skills, that can not mess up a deep throw with he's back there deep with the guy that can, run. You don't want to misjudge a football and have this guy beat a double team because you couldn't, you don't have good ball skills tracking it. So put your guy if you've got two safeties and there's one that's really has really good range and ball skills, that's the guy you want to work the double team with there. And then you just figure out all the rest from there. All right. Tim, actually, though, really great question. I love those in-season schematic questions. One of the big things when you get into the season is just solving problems every week. That offense coming to you is presenting a problem or problems. And your job as a coordinator or as a position coach in the secondary is to solve those problems. And I, more than enjoy helping guys with that because, I've got a little experience doing this thing. I earned my gray hairs. I've had my stressful moments and made some mistakes and made some good moves there. And you guys could learn from them while I still remember what it is that I did. So that was a really, really great question. All right. Once again, if you guys want to have send me a question and potentially have it read on the Indy Drills podcast, just drop your question in the comment section down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, outside of that, send me an email to cwilson@alleyedsdbcamp.com, and I'll be more than happy to do that. All right, moving along to our final segment here. We're in season, so I like to do in-season stuff, and I want to talk about catch technique and the mindset that is needed there. Oftentimes when I talk to guys about mindset, whether that be the coach or the player, the biggest thing that I get is not so much the physical part, it's the mental part. It's having to stand in there while a wide receiver is coming off at you full speed. He might be a speed guy. He might be one of these super quick guys that are full of a lot of moves and they're very twitchy. And it's just hard for you to stand in there while a guy's coming off to you like that and execute the technique. There's this overwhelming feeling that you're going to have as a safety or a nickelback or even a linebacker that's in that situation that you're going to want to open your body and get ready to run down the field because you don't want to get ran by. That is the overarching fear that guys playing in the slot experience when they're trying to play catch technique. So you as coaches, and even you guys as players, may have gone over 100 times what the technique is. All right. And you might have used some of the visuals and cues that I have used. Tell guys to be a sliding glass door, that you just need to work along this line. You're not to back up in this. You're not to open. These are not the things that you want to do because you're going to give this guy a chance to run full speed down the field as much as you think you need to do that so you can speed off with that guy, not have him run by you. That is the worst thing you can do. If you think you're going to match the speed of a guy who's gotten a 4-step head start on you just by opening your hips and thinking you're going to run down the field with him, you're fooling yourself. But as much as you might say that and much as you might practice those things, it's still difficult for that player to do that in real time. Some guys can do it naturally, other guys can't.
Stop. You know you didn't have all the interceptions that you wanted to have this year. So how are we going to fix that problem? I've got 2 great resources for you. First is my book, 101 DB Tips, chock full of information and tips for you to get your hands on that pigskin. Everything from how to train, how to play man coverage, how to play zone coverage, and a whole lot more. Plus, the All Eyes DB Camp members area breaks down coverages for you, technique, quizzes, all kinds of great things in there that's going to up your knowledge, that's going to get your hands more times on the football this year. Check them out. I have a link in the description down below.
Here's what can really help those players in this situation, though, if you can present this to them mentally and do a lot of work on getting them to understand this. I don't care what technique you're playing, and especially in catch technique. It matters what is in your head at the time of impact or when that receiver moves. Have the wrong thing in your head, the body will not follow. It will not execute the moves that it needs to execute. You will not do the things that you have done in practice. It matters what's in your head. And when it comes to catch technique, what's in your head as that receiver approaches and he's about a yard or 2 away from you is contact. Okay? It's catch technique. You don't have a catch technique if you're not engaging that receiver. Catch technique is not opening your hips to run. It's not guiding the guy somewhere without touching him. Catch technique is hands on. Okay, it's a hands-on technique. So this is not mirroring a guy. This is like wrestling. It's like tackling. All right. For you guys that, maybe played youth football, maybe you're a slot guy and you played linebacker um, in Little League. All right. So you're a nickelback now, you're a safety now, but you were a linebacker in Little League. A guy comes running through that hole with the football, you've got to tackle him. That means put your body on his body. Okay. So if you can remember doing that, that's the situation that you're in. And under no circumstances, when you were back playing the game like that, when a running back came blazing through that hole and needed to be stopped, at no point did you open your hips and decide you were going to run down the field with the running back. You know how crazy that would have looked? You know how fast your coach would have yanked you off the field? Your coach would have walked on the field and pulled you off the field. It's the same mentality. So what did you have in your head when that running back was coming through the line of scrimmage? You had in your mind contact, my body into his body, and then a wrap and then a tackle. Contact is what you were thinking about. You weren't thinking about running with him. That's not at all what was in your mind. This is the same mindset that you need to have when you're playing that catch technique. Contact. How often do you think you just flat out whiffed and missed a guy that was coming through the hole as a linebacker? I'm not talking about an open field tackle if you were playing safety in Little League where there was an acre of land to the left and right. Open field tackles are difficult, which, mind you, by the way, you'd still use some kind of catch technique type of principles to make that tackle. But I'm just talking linebacker where there was not as much space and a guy was right there basically in this hallway with you. How often did you just flat out whiff? And the times that you whiffed, you got to think about why you whiffed. Let's be honest. The times you whiffed like that was out of fear, whether it was fear of the guy's speed or fear of just the pain of making that tackle. And if you had that fear of pain, I'm probably thinking you didn't play linebacker much. All right. You wouldn't be a linebacker if you had a fear of tackling at the youth football level. Or if you were at linebacker and you had a fear of tackling, I'm here to tell you didn't have a good football team. You played on one of those teams that would go 1-9 every year. So that aside, all right, those would be the only times you might whiff in that situation. So let's get two things. Think like you did when you had to make that tackle in that little hallway as the running back came through there, which is contact. And two, get rid of the fear. Who cares how fast that guy's moving? Technique will neutralize that speed. That's the reason we use the catch technique. Technique will neutralize the quickness of that receiver. I'm here to tell you, as someone who coached a little bit on that offensive side, those receivers don't like the catch technique. They don't like a guy making them start, stop, and then restart again. They want to run full speed. They want to run as much as they can. That pattern, the way it looks in the playbook or the way that they run it when it's routes on air. They don't want to run, have to go all the way around to get back online to get to where they need to go. They don't want to run, have to stop their feet to juke you as you stay there square, mirroring them, and then get started again. The quarterback doesn't like that. Quarterback wants to take his 3-step or his 5-step drop, bounce off that back foot and deliver the ball. He can't do that if the receiver had to stutter step or go way off of his line to get around you being square to wait for that receiver to get back on there. While he's doing that, the rush is coming at him. They don't like it. What they do like is when you open the gate, let that guy run through just like he does on routes and on air, because you're not going to touch him. Let him plant his foot right at 12 or 15 or whatever the depth is and go right into his route so the quarterback can bounce off his back foot and just deliver that ball, and it's all easy. It is like routes on air. You want to disturb the routes on air? Stay square and in your mind as they approach you and they are a yard or two away, think contact. Have that same thought in your head that you did when you have to make a tackle or you had to make a tackle in Little League football or whatever the case may be. You're tackling now in high school. Let's, leave it all to youth football. You tackle now in high school. You do tackling drills in high school. You tackle in games. It's the same mentality. At no time when having to make a tackle in an open field or in a hallway situation do you think open up my hips and run with the guy down the field. No, it's square up and tackle a guy. It's the same situation in catch technique. And where I see a lot of guys fail in their catch technique is not having the right thing in their mind. And it matters what's in your mind. I often give baseball analogies when playing defensive back. If you've been watching the show, if you've been trained by me, if you're a part of my members area, you have seen it, heard it, seen it written by me. Hitting that baseball is very much like trying to hit a wide receiver, whether you're in catch technique or you're in press. Okay. It's a fast moving object. We'll call the player an object here that requires very disciplined movements by you, great eye discipline for you to make the contact that is necessary in press or catch technique. It's the same principle. The thing is, in baseball, that object is moving a whole lot faster. So they have to have really, really great eye discipline. By the way, that is another good principle or element that gets developed by playing a different sport in the offseason. So if you're a baseball player in the offseason, you learn that element. Not only do you learn ball skills, if you're, good hand-eye coordination if you're playing in the infield, but you learn great ball skills if you're playing in the outfield. And you also learn great hand-eye coordination, which would help you in playing press, man techniques, catch technique, things like that. If you can focus enough on a baseball moving at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour and put a bat to it, you can focus on a receiver and get your hands on them. So what that batter is thinking about in the batter's box is not that ball is coming so fast and I want to get out of the way of it. He'd never hit that ball. He's thinking contact if that ball is in the strike zone. He's judging the ball, and as it's coming in, he's thinking contact. I want to put my bat to the ball as that ball is approaching. He's not thinking about getting out of there. He's not thinking about turning his shoulders. Same thing for you in that catch technique. Stand in that box, make contact. Now, I promise you that's the missing element to your technique and catch if you've been struggling with it. All right. If you've done all the physical work and your feet move fine, you understand the whole concept of moving along those lines, you're a pretty good athlete, you're a decent enough athlete. And when you're doing this on your own, your feet are moving fine. All right. And there's no problems there. You're not a lacking athlete, but you still are having problems with this technique. I'm here to tell you the last component for you is the mental part. And that is what is in your mind as that player is approaching. And that's it right there. Change your whole mindset to contact as that guy is getting closer, and you are going to see your catch technique reps dramatically improve. Now you're not falling off that line. You're not giving up ground and moving back to 7 yards when you started at 5, because that's not catch technique and that's not what your coach is going to want. Now you're not opening the gate and thinking about running with that guy. There's no way you're going to open your shoulders if you're thinking contact. Okay? Think about the tackling thing. You don't open your shoulders to go make a tackle. Okay. All right. So that's the final piece to making your catch technique what you need. And now you need to start applying that in practice. And if you're not getting it as much in practice as you need to, stay after and work that catch technique over and over and over. And the part you're really going to want to work is your mental state as that guy approaches. You've been doing all of the other footwork. It's really, when you're taking those reps pre-practice, post-practice to work on your catch technique, let's focus on the mental part where you think about making contact right as that guy arrives. Just over and over and over, work that. Now you can play that catch technique as we start getting into these real serious games towards the end of the season. That's going to make or break your season. That's going to get you into the postseason, or the games where you're in that postseason. You need to make some serious coverage. You need to have some lockdown coverage on a crucial third down in a playoff game where you guys are tied, or you're down 7, or you're up 3 or 7, because we know how playoff games get. They can get pretty tight. You are going to have the tools that you need to make the plays in those situations so your team can get off the field and have an opportunity to advance. It matters what's in your head. All right. That's it for me here. I appreciate you guys listening to another episode of the Indy Drills Podcast. If you enjoyed this show and it helped you with your technique or anything that you have going on, feel free to like the video, share the video, and once again, please feel free to join my channel. On your way out, please check out some great resources that I have for you. One of them is this great book, 101 DB Tips, the #1 DB reference guide out there. Over 100 of the best tips you will ever get on playing defensive back, covering in man, playing zone, playing safety, nickel back, training in the offseason, studying film. It's all there. Have a link to it down in the description below. And then also the All Eyes DB Camp members area, over 300 posts on just about everything that you need. Strategy, analyzing coverages, what is the offense doing, understanding route combinations, quizzes in there, discussions, everything that you need. The combination of this book and the All Eyes DB Camp membership, there's no way you can't reach your potential as a defensive back. Link to that in the description down below. All right, that's it for me. I'm out of here. And as always, All Eyes DB Camp, consistency breeds results.